So our new name, Larry and Rudy Do Things, but this kind of feels like a throwback to minority gaming because we're going to talk about D&D, right? So how'd that go? Let's see what do you, I guess we should ask the DM. So Abby was our DM.
Let's just introduce ourselves and talk about our previous experience. Just starters, right? Just so the billions know who they're dealing with here.
Yeah, should we intro?
Yeah, I can't say go clockwise because I don't know if the layout is the same for all of us.
Well, it should be on your screen. You should just prompt us because that's your screen's the one that's filming, right?
Okay, so I have Rudy in the top left, so I'm gonna have Rudy introduce himself, and then.
Well, my name's Rudy. I co-host this with Larry, and as I found out in the first episode, I'm actually part of the show, not just a special guest. So that was cute. That was a heartfelt moment. My D&D experience. I had friends who played it when I was growing up. I didn't play, so that I'm not even gonna count that as experience, but I just heard of it. And I remember there's a weird cartoon in an arcade game. So that was cool. And I just remember the name Tiamat. I think it was a dragon. Mm-hmm. Anyways, fast forward to like about 37 years later, I had my first experience playing D&D with Vlad and Xavier, who I played Magic with, and Larry has too. Yeah, and that was my. I don't even know how that happened. They're just like, hey, we're gonna have a D&D group because Xavier, our friend, he's totally into it. He's been playing it for decades, I guess, and he DMs for a lot of groups. And for those of you that don't know, DM means dungeon mastering, right? So, yeah, so I had that experience about, maybe 6 years ago, and we had a campaign that we'd play every weekend. We played every weekend, which meant like we played like 2 weekends in a row, and then once like 5 months later, and then we stopped. I got to be about a level 3 elf ranger, who was part like I had inspired by an Inuit Eskimos, and there's this character in Snow Crash, this Raven, this big Inuit who had this wolf dog, and I had a harpoon, and he is pretty dope. Soft spoken, large fella, yeah. And then fast forward to a few years ago when we started playing with our school group, I became a narcissistic barbarian human named Dominus. Oh yeah, and then my Inuit elf guy was named Nartok. Yeah, there you go.
Nice. All right, so I'm Larry, the other host, and let's see. I had zero experience with D&D other than knowing that people who played were like heavily made fun of. That being said, I'm very open to all things, and so I was like, given the first opportunity, which was a couple years ago, I definitely was like, all right, let's do it. And with my preconceived notions, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna set those aside and go all in. So yeah, I made a character. I think it first started at the same time. There were some kids like that were coming after school, like from Magic Club, and they were also trying to set their own like group. So I had like made one character for that, but then I quickly left their group when I heard you guys were doing one. I was like, yeah, I can be way more inappropriate and say crazy things if I join the adult group versus like dealing with teenage drama that their group broke up so fast, and I was like, yeah, that was the right call, right move.
So for the record, you don't role play with children. That's good.
Yeah, that would be a no.
Larry does not role play with children. Okay.
Unless it's with my own kids, then I have to be like weird Disney characters all the time. And yeah, like I've been every gender and thing that you could imagine. Tables, the guys and girls and princesses and mushrooms and who knows. You think of it, I probably had to role play it. So sorry ladies, I'm off the table if you're in the role playing. This one's taken. All right, so I was a bugbear, and my name was I should know. It's only been like a year.
How did you guys all forget your names? Lionheart. Oh my god.
Lionheart.
I was Dominus and Nartok. I know my name.
That's not their name.
Lionheart. Oh man, all the memories are flooding back to me. Like I needed something to trigger like all my D&D memories. It's all coming back to me. My very scavenger ways of stealing scimitars and stuff like that off of dead bodies. All right. Yeah, so that's me. Bugbear, Lionheart. I guess next we can go Tom and then save the DM for last, I guess.
Okay. So my name's Tom. I teach with the hosts at Washington. Can we say that?
Well, too late now.
Yeah. You say whatever you want.
Quack sound like quack.
Well, I mean, all of your like.
It out. It's fine.
I wonder who I am or whatever.
If things get really bad, we have the magic of editing, and whole chunks of this will be gone. Like, hey, what happened to that one part? It's like it was gone, didn't make the cut.
All right. So my history is that in high school, actually starting in 8th grade, I think in the 80s, like 82 or 80. What was I in 8th grade? 83, 84 was 9th grade. So 82, 83. I had like all the books. But I don't never play. Like I did just make up characters. I was in one group with some friends for a short while, but we used to all like they used to cheat. We used to all cheat about the characters. I remember we would get in these little fights it was Gilbert and John was actually John Brown, and he actually looked like John Brown, and apparently according to him, he was related to John Brown.
Politician?
So, yeah, the historical like abolitionist John Brown. It was so funny. No, his name was Troy Brown. Sorry, Troy Brown. But he looked like John Brown, and he was related to John Brown. And we were in 8th grade, so that's when you learned about that thing, right? You know, because it was, well, I was going to, I was at an Army high school, so we learned about that stuff. They're pretty rigorous. But yeah, so it was kind of messy. We would always get in fights, and then we stopped playing. And then it wasn't until I was an adult, like probably a year before we got together, maybe 2 years, I suddenly thought, Dungeons and Dragons. Let me check it out. And I got hooked up with this like gay Dungeons and Dragons group, and kind of like with ours, they like last for a little bit and then implode. And so not implode because of anger, just like some like people go other ways or whatever. And so your guys was my 3rd attempt. And I kept the same character each time. I just keep resetting the character because I love my little character. He's right here.
Look how sexy that is.
I was the sexy, and it was so funny. I didn't realize it was Jason Momoa until somebody told me. I was like, "Oh, you're right, it is."
You recognize that was him?
Well, not with the. I just didn't notice it. It was like, yeah, and so yeah, and so mine was Murloc. He was a half orc. I like the idea of having like, because I never liked the idea of evil races. It was so weird to me because you use the term race. They don't say species. Orcs aren't a species, they're a race. And so it was always weird to me that you had evil races. And I think they just announced they're no longer going to have evil races. You have evil individuals, not evil races. So I always wanted to have like an orc or goblin, something that was supposed to be evil, but not have them be evil. And so that's what I did. So I had a half orc. But then I had to come up with this like story to justify that he wasn't evil. And so he was raised by elves or something. It was just like so funny. But even then,
so you're like a race trader then.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. What's so funny is like, I'm so glad they finally did it because it never made sense to me. I was like, the whole race is evil. It was, to me, it was like kind of dog whistle racism, and
Yeah, no, I agree totally. Like, I think like with the Drow, you know, they did a lot of stuff with R.A. Salvatore wrote the book where like one of the Drow kind of like break away. So I've always thought it was really cool to play with that as well. But I'm glad they're getting rid of that too.
Yeah, because it never made sense to me. I guess, yeah, and I really enjoyed ours. I was so sad when we broke up. But now that Zoom is a possibility, maybe.
Yeah.
And back together.
And with that, I cued the Dungeon Master.
Hello, I am the Dungeon Master. Yeah. I think my previous experience with D&D was kind of similar to Tom's. Like I had the books in high school, but nobody ever wanted to play with me because they were like, that's and so I never like got a group together. I just like made my own character and then was like, yay. And so I played for a couple of years where my partner was my DM, and we played I actually played an Elf Ranger too, a Beastmaster.
Dungeons and Dragons you're talking about, right?
Yeah, yes, it's Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, like, you know, but mostly Dungeons and Dragons.
Someone else's role playing.
You guys did live action role playing, didn't you?
I mean, but yeah, I was gonna make a bow joke or an arrow joke, but I didn't have anything. Anyway, so basically what happened with us is that I went to Tom's birthday party at Dolores Park, and I had a little bit of rosé beforehand, and I ended up telling Rudy that I played D&D. What?
I was there.
Yeah, you were there.
I was there, but I guess when you said
I wasn't there.
Yeah, you weren't there.
That was a different Tom, but then I realized actually that is me.
Yeah, it was you. I went to your birthday party in Dolores Park with Heather, and that was the first time I met Rudy. And, you know, I was like feeling good. It was sunny, and like we were like hanging out, and I was like, yeah, I play D&D. And I didn't think Rudy was gonna like run with that as much as he did. But he was like, great, so you can DM. And yeah, that's what happened, basically.
I forgot that I incepted that idea. Wow.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. And I was like, yeah, like totally, I could totally DM, but I had never DM'd before. So yeah, I got to learn about that, which was super interesting. And I definitely screwed up a lot at first with like encounters because I hadn't run an encounter before. And if you don't read it very carefully, I made so many things like way more easy than they needed.
I know. I noticed that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, how did we just beat that creature?
Also 7 people, which is insane. And I was like fighting people off that wanted to be in it. Like, I can't remember who else, but people were like texting me like, oh, is there more space? Can we do 9? I'm like, no, like 7 is already insane. Like,
yeah, that was.
It's crazy. Like everybody, I mean, I'm so happy that everybody like got to play and do what they wanted to do. But I mean, 7 people, like I've only been in like a 4-person, well, 4 plus the DM like group before. So I was like blown away.
Wait, Abby,
like,
were the other 2 girls? Because ones are gender numbers. Oh, forget it then. Who cares?
Yeah, no.
It's true. We were all cisgender males too playing with you.
Yeah, we actually had a lot of female characters in the group.
That's
so
true.
that
we were like 50-50. Like, oh man.
I was very impressed by your like open-mindedness. So I mean, like I went straight in and y'all were like, yeah, like half of us are ladies, and I was like, yes. So but it was definitely interesting to DM a group of 7 dudes. So
Mine was pansexual.
Three of which were playing women and one was pansexual.
Yes.
And I chose the macho sexist guy.
Both of you, like, sorry, I'm pointing like you can see me. Both of you guys like had super like masculine characters, which is super funny. Lionheart and Dominus were both like very masculine characters.
Not like us normally.
Just I mean, real life. Very
at all.
I mean, I know it's how you want, you want to be, but no, I'm just kidding.
I'm scared to be in my real life,
No, I thought that was really cool. And then, like, I think that I've always kind of been like the one female who's played in like groups, so it doesn't bother me, but it was definitely funny when we all got together and it was like kind of a motley crew of guys. So, but I enjoyed the group. Like you guys were all really like awesome to play with. So
yeah, that's interesting that it played out as 3 guys, 3 girls, and a pansexual. And like Tom was the thing that brought us and linked us all together.
Was still a guy.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna like yes, but yes.
Because wasn't Stanley's character was a lesbian too.
Stanley's character was a lesbian tiefling.
Tiefling,
Yes. Yeah.
With 0 seduction skills, apparently.
He was so not sexy. Like, I mean, for
That was
her,
so-
how hard she tried, poor thing. But
She kept rolling zeros whenever she tried to seduce.
So
there
here's
was the one where she was like trying to seduce the guard, and it was just going so badly. But yeah.
I love that, Abby, you put him to task, right? Because he rolled, he's like, oh, I want to seduce the guard. So he rolled, and then he rolled whatever. Then you're like, okay, well, why don't you do it? And like, he had to act it out. Like, you really put him, like, you know, he could have rolled whatever. And he's okay, you've seduced him, but you really made him like try to seduce him. And then we tried to watch him flirt. It was so embarrassingly funny.
It was like
I think that's the fun part of D&D though, is like the role play. Like, if you're gonna roll, like, you have to show us what you're gonna do. Like, show us your game.
Yeah, but we tried to make a gym bro be like a seductress girl, and he couldn't even get over the fact that he had to talk and act like a girl seducing a guy. Like, in his head, he was like,
He got into it. He was doing this all.
I thought he did a good job. He just
yeah, no, it was
the
so
acting
bad.
was
He was
hilarious.
so bad.
The acting was hilarious. But I think that like I don't remember what happened. I remember he ended up like not like ending up like locked up again or something.
He
It
stole
was
the
like,
back. Oh, no, he ended up causing an attack or something. I don't remember.
yeah, it didn't go well.
It was funny, but the game was weak. You know, like if you know, as a woman trying to seduce something, you know, like so. Yeah, it was very funny. Yes, but if that was the actual seduction part was a little weak, and that was so funny.
And his character was like supposedly super sexy from his picture.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you don't even have to be super sexy to seduce guys as a female. You can just be a female walking around and just point at some guy, you, and it's that easy. And he couldn't do it.
Yeah. He was.
Oh,
he-
Mary.
I know he's gonna cut that part.
There was
I know, like-
problematic things about you just said, but we'll just leave. We'll let the audience.
Yeah, let the audience decide.
Hmm,
No, I think that we know a lot about him as a person now too. So like I learned so much. I mean,
that's true. We do get to know each other really well. Like
really well. Yeah, you're like, oh, I've seen into your soul now. So it's the benefit of D&D.
like weird little corners of our hidden psyche, like it's come out. Like it's like, so that person is a lot more interesting and like has little quirks that do it for me. as friends and
Like I think that D&D is like the best form of therapy because you can kind of get out whatever you have inside you and like act it out. I mean, as long as it's not violent or bad, but I mean like generally I think that you can take like your frustrations and put them onto the game, and that's like really cathartic. But I also think that as far as running a game, the talking between people is like the best part for me, like as the DM. Like encounters are great because you love to like kill things and yay, but like for me, like running the game, I like it when you guys were like interacting. That was my favorite part. So
it was kind of hard with having so many people to let everyone like get their turn to talk, which is why I understand there's like 4 to 5 people in groups usually, including the DM, so everyone could get like a hefty chunk of talking. But yeah, with 7 people, there was a lot of downtime and just like,
especially when we split like into 2 groups at one point, it was just like, oh my god, for the last hour and a half, I'm just sitting here watching.
yeah, but we also
The
played
encounters would go so long because you had to go cycle through 8, sometimes 9 if you had 2 different, like we would be cycling through. It would take like, and with, I'm not going to mention any names, but with the bard, sometimes it would take,
I knew it.
I was gonna say it. I was waiting. I was like, I'm gonna give it 5 minutes.
I mean, we all had moments where we're like, I don't quite know, But yeah, took so long. I mean, I think it sometimes took an hour for an encounter, or more even sometimes.
Yeah.
Many of us.
Well, we were also only playing for like an hour and a half or 2 hours because everybody was like, oh, I have to go home or I have to do that. So usually, like in my experience when I've played, it's like a 6 to 8 hour situation where you're like doing the
We can
whole.
do that now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, well, yeah, I don't have anything going on, but yeah, it's like when we were all trying to get like, and I also think it was hard sometimes because we were at school. So like we would play in a classroom and people would be like, oh, I have to get called away to like do a thing, or I have to like put grades in, or I have to do that. And so it got distracting too. I think we weren't always like there, if that makes sense.
Well, the easy part is we are physically there, and then we can meet in the room real quickly. But in terms of everyone being like 100% engaged, where like if I had to drive 30 minutes and go to one of your houses, I'm gonna be there for a while, and I'm not going anywhere because I already spent 30 minutes to drive there, and like, you know, we probably go get lunch and have some drinks or something, and then like play, and then like I wanted to do that with you guys. I don't think it ever came up where we could go off site.
No, the closest was a couple. I think it was a couple Fridays. We went to
the bar. Yeah.
What was the place?
The tavern.
We did go one Wednesday to the Hockey Haven or whatever.
Oh,
we went to the Ho-Ha and played out back, and then
we also did Richmond Republic too.
Yeah, twice.
Twice, I think.
The double R.
But we've tried to do the Halloween one at the gaming cafe, and I think like not that many people showed up, and so it was kind of like.
I was Deadpool.
Wait, was I there at the gaming cafe?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then David was there.
You came with your girls, I think, and you tried to playing a game.
Oh yeah, that's why I got all crazy. Yeah,
like a lot of waffle fries, maybe, or something.
Yeah, we had a lot of waffle fries. Yeah,
that place had good food. They had like really tasty chicken bites and beer.
And the fees were waived because we were in costumes. There's a $5 entry fee otherwise.
Yes, and so we went because it was like free, and so we were all costumed. Yeah, they got my costume though, so I was really excited because I was Jubilee and like nobody had gotten it all day.
I did.
That's true. But the people at the bar were like, "Are you Jubilee?" And I was like, "I am." So it was kind of cool. But yeah,
they were the right age. They looked like they were like 30s to 40s, so they would know X-Men. You know, that cartoon was like really popular at the time
in the 90s.
Yeah, and she was a 90s character, so it's like she was very 90s, like, you know. So but yeah, I would have liked to. I think we talked about doing it over the summer, and then everybody was just traveling, and it was just like it never like coalesced into anything. Yeah, so
so I have a question to bring it back.
Oh yay!
Oh, that's right. You're
Deadpool Santa, baby. Happy Halloween 2018.
I can't believe you found that so fast.
I was disengaged for about 30 seconds there, so.
Only 30 seconds? That's a record. No. But
what'd you say?
wait. So, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, bringing it back. How do you guys feel like our play group did as a play group? You know, like with all 7 of us. All right, you take it away, Rudy.
This is kind of related. Firstly, I just want to say props to Abby for doing all that because the group is super large. Other props, because Greg West was telling me, he had this discussion with me, and I agree with him because I've only had, that was my second experience playing. But he was describing how, like, when that other first group I played with, like, you know, Xavier told us, like, we were our characters, and then he told us that we're all together and this and that. And Greg says that's a common experience. Abby made our characters meet each other. Like, when we were in the tavern, like, that first week was us, like, which we went home, we had to come up with a backstory, what's your reason for showing up, and then, like, we converged in this tavern, and then she had it, crafted it, where all of our characters met, instead of just saying, okay, here's 7 random-ass people in a group, like, now we're going to adventure together. Like, you really made us buy into, like, why we're there and why we want to be together. So I thought that was amazing. Like, I didn't realize, like, the importance of that, because that's only add 2 experiences, right? And Greg pointed out, because he's played it enough times, where he says that's the first time he's ever had to deal with that. So not deal with it, but to experience that. And I thought that was amazing. Like, that was a really good insight. And like, something I would have totally taken for granted, like this notion that we're there for a reason. So that was really cool. So props, Abby. So
yeah, it was like reading a fantasy book. I read lots of fantasy books, and they always like have the elf character, the dwarf, the humans, and then they all meet at a tavern or something like that. So I was like really impressed with that.
What is
And
this? A
probably
joke? A dwarf, an elf, and an orc meet at a bar.
A bugbear, a dwarf, and a barbarian walk into a bar.
Yeah, I
Not dwarf.
thought it was fun. Like I enjoyed like the dynamics between everyone. Yeah, the bard did talk a lot and took a long time to think through his actions. And I felt bad for some people who weren't involved, and then they were just sitting there for like 30 minutes or whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, you know, we all experienced it, but I was like, yeah. But I think we all understood that it's the size of our play group. Like, let this character have their time to shine and go through their adventure and stuff like that. And I'm very curious about, like, Abby, how much stuff you had left over that we did not even touch upon. Like, it must be a lot.
Yeah.
It is like I was just going back through all of my notes because like basically what I would do is like I would type up so I read a lot of fantasy books too, but I'm also like, you know, I think of myself as like a writer like type person, so I would write up basically like 3 different scenarios for every time we met. And so I would give you guys choices, and based on those choices for the next session, I would develop like 3 more scenarios for like what's gonna happen next. And sometimes you guys didn't do any of the stuff I planned, and I would just make shit up. Like you'd be like, "Oh, we're gonna do this," and I'm like, "Oh, fuck, okay, like let's do this, okay." But so a couple of times, like
when someone climbed up.
That was the bard. The
Yes.
bard.
That must have been. I had a sense like, oh wait, that wasn't supposed to happen. Like he climbed up.
So it was planned, but like not for right then. So I kind of had like an idea, but I was like, oh, okay, we're doing this. So I had to like flip really fast and like find the like the character that he was going to get introduced to, and a couple of different things I did that you guys like.
That's your revenge on him though.
Yeah.
Yes, sun knocked him out, and disease
like,
cursed or something. I was like,
you know what?
he's dead.
He hid it from everybody for so long that he was like cursed. And I was like,
and the funny thing is, we didn't even care. We just
I know. No one,
we just moved on, and we had to like hurry up and die.
guys, you know. But I can't say anything because I have to let you guys like make your own decisions. So I'm like, anywho, like things are.
He didn't even care either. He was like, "Yeah, I'm sure it'll all work out."
No, he was like, he wanted to turn into like a lizard person. So I mean, I think he like honestly that was like he was like fine with it. But then I was going through. So also like obviously like I have my maps that I drew and stuff. So
dude, put that closer to the camera. Like, I don't know if we could. I think I have some pictures of this. Like, look how amazing that detail is. That's like.
You need to show the town that we met at. That's where you really.
Oh yeah, hang on, I have that one. It's in a different notebook. But yeah, so that was what I started with. Was just like I drew a map because I'm a dork and I like drawing maps. And so basically, like did a whole like little world, and that's. Yeah, Tel Kebja. Yeah. And so I basically wanted to base it a little bit on the Dark Sun, like adventure package, I guess. So the Dark Sun universe is like based in like a desert setting. And I thought that was so cool because I've never played D&D in a desert setting before. So I wanted to make ours a desert setting too. Of course, with the desert comes camels. And that was probably one of our earliest issues.
Oh, that's when I was when Murloc was being the seductor. But he did it work.
Tell us about that, Murloc.
Remember he seduced the camel owner?
Yes, you did successfully. High five. So, yeah.
Discounts.
Yeah.
That's good to have a pansexual. Any sexual situation needed will be covered, right? Like,
And he was also a drow, so it was like the two like evil
Oh, that's
races,
right.
which was, you know, early on very like inspiring and heartwarming.
yeah. Most intimate moments brought to you by Two of the Drow.
Yes, and so I thought that that was actually really fun, and you actually did a good job. So I applaud your seduction methods. And then, but then you know we had the camel thing,
Yeah.
so that was probably our earliest like conflict, I think.
Oh, that's right.
People were stubborn.
That's where I found that everybody I was with was evil. Wasn't that the case?
Well,
Or neutral evil? I was the only good
Neutral. We were neutral. Like,
Yeah,
we were
no.
neutral.
The best
No,
was I was the only good one. There were a couple neutral, and everyone else was evil. I was like, what?
Yeah, no, I actually changed.
Oh, and she's gone.
Okay.
Oh, gang, I actually have to leave in like 5 minutes, but I mean, yeah, I'll stay in the meantime. So, you know.
Well, we can wrap it up pretty soon.
Well, Abby was talking. What was Abby saying? Then we could just finish up there.
I was talking about drawing maps, and then we were talking about how we met up, and then we were talking about all the weird, the scenarios. Yes, I have so many different scenarios that you guys didn't play. That's what we were talking about.
Well, if you write a fantasy book, like put some of those maps in and stuff like that, and
Oh,
you
you
can
were
bring this
talking
world
about the
back.
soul thing or whatever.
The which?
We talked about the camels. Never mind.
Yeah, we talked about the camels.
Yeah.
The camels were like the first conflict that we
were talking
had,
about
where I
the
think,
conflict, that's right.
yeah, people disagreed about things, and then after we got that out of the way, I feel like it went more smoothly. But yeah, no, I actually found the sticky notes where I made you guys vote on like what you were gonna do at the very end, and like half of the people decided to like become evil. And I was like, oh, okay. So that didn't go the way that I thought it was gonna go, but I think Murloc actually, you said refuse. So yeah, I gave you guys the option to basically like try to overthrow.
Oh, that's right, because we were.
Like, yeah, and then I had like the countess that was like actually a witch or a sorceress, and you guys had the choice to like if you wanted to overthrow her or if you wanted to like try to overthrow the like
That's
principality.
right. Said,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, those
And so-
cards. You like
Do
made
I?
those cards, which are really amazing too. By the way, like the items. Oh,
Yeah.
the invitation is amazing. Yeah, but you made like you got item cards, which was like, I was like, great.
I like having like tactile things. Like I can play with or without the miniatures. Like I like miniatures, but like I don't have to have them. But I do like having like in-game tactile objects, like invitations or item cards, and then you have like a thing you can like touch, and it's kind of cool.
Oh,
Too bad you didn't have like 80 scimitars, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't
I
carry
would have
those so
hoarded all of them.
but I mean, for next time, totally, I'm just gonna load up on scimitars.
Yeah, every time Larry lose one, I got a new scimitar.
I know. Well, because I had those jackalopes, jackalwares that you know were like basically these like kind of trying to give them like an ancient Egyptian feel to them, and I just gave them all scimitars because I was like that's the option that was in the book, and I didn't give them anything else, and Larry was very excited about the scimitar.
You know what? Maybe like if you had the tactile things, Larry should be burdened with actually carrying them, and maybe he would be less likely to lose.
7'7". I'm 7'7". I can carry like
You
10
have to
scimitars.
hold
I
an
know.
armful of scimitars. Like I've looted it. It's like keep carrying them.
One of my favorite things was when he was like, "Oh, I want to do sneak," and I was like, "You're 7'7". Like you made sure that everyone knew that you're like a gigantic person that weighs like 300 pounds and is like 7'7" or whatever, and you were like, I want to sneak from here to here, and then you like rolled a perfect score, and it was super annoying.
I had a
Then I had to be like, oh, no one notices that this like giant furry monster.
A sand-colored cloak. So yes, I'm 7'7", but at least my cloak blended in with the
You were
feather.
inside. You were in the cover.
You're trying to
Oh yeah. That was, and then, but it made sense when I tried to sneak again when we were in the desert later on.
Yes.
Okay.
But the one in the tavern, you like rolled a perfect score, and so I was like, everyone looks away, and like
Everyone sneezed at the same
Yeah.
moment.
It's all about timing.
What?
It's all about timing, you know?
So yeah, that's the
Master
funniest part,
illusionist.
I think, of like
We must do
DMing
what the
in
dice
general.
says, right?
Yeah, like you have to be like, okay. So,
I was impressed with the writing as well. What's interesting is I had to do that same thing with my character before because the DM in one of the other campaigns was an English teacher too. So I'm wondering if it's like an English teacher DM.
yeah.
It was just like more elaborate than I've seen other things be.
Well, thank you. But yes, I think that's probably true.
We had to have backstory. We had to meet. We had to,
Yeah.
All right. So if we go back, some questions I had about like the group. What were some things that we did really well? Because as a person with no experience, like you all had a little bit of experience with Rudy. You two had a lot more experience, Tom and Abby. I had no experience, so I have no idea if what our group was good or if it was like, a whole mess or whatever. And was there things that we probably should do different other than the size of the group? Who wants to
Do
take
you,
it?
want, do you want me to answer, or do you want you
Up
guys?
to you guys. Like I have no experience, so you two can take this on. Abby,
Yeah,
you
I
wanna
don't
go
think
first?
you would answer. You two would answer.
Yeah, I mean, like the group was huge. Like, let's be real. And the fact that we were playing in like tiny increments definitely was like hard. But I mean, like, I think overall, I mean, it was a hot mess sometimes, but like in a fun way. So I think that, the biggest issues that we had as a group, in my opinion, were like what I said before with like paying attention or being distracted, just because we were in a workplace. But I mean, as far as the game went, like, I kind of let you guys do whatever. And like we went along with it. And so I think that overall it was great. Like I think that everyone played, especially for people that hadn't played before, like you're learning, so you walk through all the different parts of like, what does this item do, and like what is my spell, and so you had like a little bit of homework, which I don't mind because I'm a teacher, and so it was like I'm assigning you homework, go figure out how your spells work. So I think that is probably the biggest learning curve that as a group everyone had, was just learning how things function in the game.
Well, as a DM in the future, because you made all these awesome scenarios every time, would you push the group towards one of the scenarios you made?
No,
No?
I don't really like, I think like, I don't know, I guess DM's like, it's called like railroading, where you put someone on a track and you're like, this is how it goes, and everyone's gonna follow this exact thing because that's what I wrote, and then when it gets to the end we're just done. And like I don't like that, because it's not letting you guys have like agency and deciding what you want to do. So I'd rather like waste my time like creating a bunch of stuff, and then I can always put it in like later. So it's fine with me.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, because then I feel like if you, all right, I don't know anything about this. So if you bought like the DM book, don't they only have like certain scenarios, like 3 or 4 scenarios, and then you have to like kind of go with it?
The DM book doesn't have any scenarios. So the DM book just has like information. So like if you guys like want to crawl or something, I have like information for how you would do that, or like getting out of grapples, things like that, like what I would have you guys roll number wise. So I make up the numbers, right? So it's like a 15 is really difficult, like a 10 would be an easy grapple or something like that. But you can buy adventure modules that basically do have an entire like playthrough, and we never did that just because I wanted to have like a sandbox world, because I'd never done it before, and so I wanted to do that. But we could have like just played through like a scenario, but I'm not sure how many they have now. Yeah.
All right, gang. We should get the band back together. I will see you guys soon. I know Larry will take us home. Thank you all for being here. Sorry to cut out.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, y'all. Cheers, though.
Bye.
Hey, man. See ya.
No.
So yeah, we can wrap up pretty soon. I'm thinking, yeah. Well, I that was one of the things I was wondering about. Like, what do you do with all your unused scenarios? Because it seemed kind of like a waste. Like, if maybe you should, like, we should have
For
been.
the future.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I know.
because if you're DM again, you could bring people back to this world, and
For
then
sure.
those are like scenarios that they can take. Okay, so
True.
that makes sense.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
I just felt bad, like if you had to waste all your own material. I was like, wow, you put in all this work, hours and hours, and you don't get to touch it ever again. I guess unless we go back to this world, if we start a new group and make new characters. I don't really know what is it, Roll20 or
Yeah, Roll20 is what I've used to play Dungeon Crawl Classics. Dungeon Crawl Classics is like a tunneling type of thing. You start out with like you have like 4 characters and then you tunnel into one, and they basically all die. So and then you go on like adventures that are a little bit harder, I think, than D&D 5th edition. But it's been interesting. But I have used it, and I think that it's functional. For the world, like I did want you guys to go eventually back to Talkebja. Like that was my dream, was that you guys would get to go back and like have, you know, your like heroes like parade or whatever, like good job everybody, because Greg was like from there, or his character was from there, and I really wanted everybody to go back because you had like made, yeah, I know. And so like I really wanted that to be like the ending, but we just never quite got there with timing. And then Tick Tick was like my favorite. So the Thrycreen that you guys like befriended to teach about irrigation was like my favorite thing that happened.
we're trying to save the world as adventurers, like with our
I know.
swords and our minds.
That David was so like what was his character's name? Rosie was so like, yeah, it was so hardcore about like, I'm gonna like teach them to farm so they don't have to like, you know, do anything illicit anymore or whatever. And
You're
was
trying
really,
to end slavery.
yes, I mean that was the whole thing, is like, and I had not even sort of planned for that originally. Like I didn't know you guys were going to be so righteous. And like you were like, oh, slavery is wrong, and like
That's the ethnic studies teacher. He's trying to take the
entirely
world.
in this world. And it's like you just met like one person that was talking about it, and I mean I was like, yes, all right, let's do this. So the whole overarching thing was that you were trying to end slavery in the entire like region. So it was very impressive.
Yeah. So
Did Rosie go evil? Or I think Rosie refused too.
No, so I have the notes. So I think Rosie chose help as her option, and then the tiefling chose support takeover, and the bard chose attack with dissonant whispers. So that was the like last thing. But yeah, I really wanted everybody to go back to Talkebja so that you could have like your like open your own adventurers guild or like whatever you wanted to do.
Oh, that would have been way cool. I like that.
Yeah, that was my like hope, is that you were going to get to go back and do that, and then like get hirelings or whatever to kind of like go on adventures with you and stuff. And it would have been a really cool like ongoing thing because you would have had like a home base. But you know, that's not, and like ending slavery was like awesome because I mentioned it in passing. Excuse me. I mentioned it in passing as like just like, oh, there's like exists in this world, and y'all were like, no, it does not. And I was like, yes, okay.
It's so weird coming from all these evil type people who
right, yeah, because you guys are all bad, like bad. I wasn't expecting everyone to be like, actually, we're lawful good and we're going to go take care of this. And I was like, okay, all right. So
yeah,
I think that's where they weren't playing their characters as much as they probably forgot.
Yeah, well, a little bit.
I didn't say anything. I was like, okay.
Half of us, I feel like, never played at all, and half of you guys have had experience, and half of us had zero experience. So we were just like, all right, we're just gonna
very minimal experience. I had a lot of experience with rolling dice and making characters.
Yeah.
Actual role playing, I didn't have much experience.
Oh, okay.
But you were great. You were such a good role player.
You were probably the best. If
Yeah,
I could say
you were
all
really
the people
good.
there, you were the best because
Yeah.
you wanted to move things along. You were deep in your character, and you would enact like what everything looked like, and
Yeah.
feeling on the walls. You would be over here feeling on the walls, like hit with your hammer, like uppercut. I was like, okay, that's awesome. And then a lot of us like started to get on board with that. Like, what does that look like when you're climbing on a rope to try to get over this water?
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like a lot of it was spurred on by you, Abby, but also like Tom's enthusiasm for like
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely easier to DM if you have enthusiastic people that are like, yeah, I'm gonna like slice stuff and like describe it to you. So I think that definitely, like, I asked, but Tom like always delivered. So,
Yeah. I'm
or
over here,
Murloc.
I'm like, what's my DPS? Like, I need it to be as high as possible. I want to be efficient with my attacks. I'm like, I'm not even thinking like what my character looks like how they're
Yeah.
what does that spell do? How does that look? Like in my head, I see it, but I wasn't very good at like describing it out to you guys and like being real communicative about like all that stuff, which is a big part of D&D. You have to
Yeah.
like, whatever's imagined in your head, you have to let the DM know so the DM can like take that into account to like share it with the rest of the group. And it was
For sure.
I didn't get the metaing part of it like very well. Like that was like super confusing for me. Like I understand like meta, but like I didn't know how that worked in the game. But John put it well. Like there's no time in when you're playing D&D, there is no time, right?
No, there's not. Yeah. It's like, you can play for 8 hours and only like a like small amount of time has passed.
Yeah, that
in
was
the
like
game.
30 minutes in
Yeah,
world
you're
time.
like,
Like you were here for all day, but that was
yeah.
like 30 minutes.
Encounters would take an hour, but it would really only be like 2 minutes of time or 3 minutes.
Yeah. I know, that's why sometimes it's hard with 7 people, like we said, but like because we were doing these really long battles, but the battles are actually really fast in the game. So you're not actually like pushing things like forward a whole lot. Because the battles are like, everybody's turn is so short. So like in game time. The other meta stuff was like deciding out of character what to do in the game. I was like, I always had to get on to some people about that. Because they
are we supposed to talk as characters at all times and rarely come out of our character? Like I didn't get like when we could.
You don't have to do that. I think if something happens, like someone comes up to you and are like, I draw a bow and like I'm getting ready to attack, then you guys decide. But in that moment, you wouldn't have a chance to like discuss with each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it.
So, yeah.
It's like, well, if I do this, you should use that spell and whatever.
Yeah. Because then you plan a best like attack method, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, let's get together. But sometimes you guys did do that. Like there were a couple of times where you had to work together to do some stuff. Like I did like a trap really early on, and you guys solved it really fast. It was like, I don't know if you even remember, but it was like a weather spirit.
Yep.
Yeah, because David's character, Rosie, was like really interested in the weather. So I wanted to give her something to be like, ooh, this is interesting. And then David was like, I didn't even realize you did that later. But yeah, there was like a trap and you had to like put the elements on each like symbol, and you guys figured it out really fast. So there were some where like you guys did discuss, and I thought it was like, it always went well. So
yeah, we had a good balance and good communication within our group. I guess because we're all teachers, so we're trained to communicate effectively. So it like showed like when we had disputes or like there was conflict or big events, like people were taking their time and like giving other people chances to talk and then stepping back, and it was like, and that was hard with 7 people. I like from my point of view, just as like just one of the characters, I was like, wow, this group is like, considering how big it is, was like pretty fair about like giving it.
Yeah. No,
So,
yeah, I agree. It was big. But yeah, I think that because everybody like also kind of knew each other, it wasn't like we were coming in. Well, I didn't know you guys, but like you guys knew each other from playing. And so I think it was like easier to talk to each other.
all right. No, thank
All
you
right.
guys. I'll talk to you later. Yeah. So, thanks. Bye.
Yep, thanks. Bye.
Bye.